me slippers. What have you done with them? Give them back to me or I'll...
It's too late. There they are, and there they'll stay.
Give me back my slippers. I'm the only one that knows how to use them. They're no use to you. Give them back to me. Give them back.
Keep tight inside of them. Their magic must be very powerful, or she wouldn't want them so badly.
You stay out of this, Glinda, or I'll fix you as well.
Oh, rubbish. You have no power here. Be gone before somebody drops the house on you, too.
Very well. I'll bide my time. And as for you, my fine lady, it's true, I can't attend you here and now as I'd like. But just try to stay out of my way. Just try. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy, Camel, and today, first of all, we got to say thanks to Spectoral here for that epic meme. That was, I believe, his debut Bitcoin meme. So thank you very much for that. Go and give him a follow at Spectoral on X or Twitter. I'm sticking with Twitter. I prefer Twitter. Anyway, in today's episode, I'm kind of just going to freestyle it a bit, to be honest. I don't think we need an introduction. So first of all, I wanted to show you this, okay? The Fed may cut in Q1, is quickly turning towards the Fed will have to cut in Q1 due to this perceived labour and inflation weakness due to the seasonal adjustment and benchmark revisions. This is something I've been saying over and over again, right? A lot of people think that the Fed maintain control and that the Fed will decide, okay, oh, now it's time to cut, okay? We've achieved what we wanted to achieve and now we're ready to cut. But the Fed tend to be more reactive, right? As I've been saying over and over again, I suspect something breaks. And I suspect when something breaks, when something blows up, the Fed is forced to cut. So it's not just me that's saying this. Take a good look at this. You can pause your screen and read all this if you want to. As discussed in the weekend's video, the big thing we're looking out for this week is how we're going to see these rates reprice in terms of the CME probabilities. We currently sit at 95% probability we're going to see a pause in January's FOMC. And of course, the CPI is out on the 11th of Jan, as we discussed at the weekend as well. If that comes in hot, then we're probably going to have to entertain seeing pause for longer or even an additional hike. I really doubt they're going to continue to hike because things will actually break, but we can't rule it out, right? However, if that CPI comes in lower, as we were talking about the weekend, what we will likely see is the target rate for March's meeting start to reprice towards cuts, right? We're going to exceed this 2/3, 1/3 split, and we're probably going to become much more like 3/4 to 1/4 or even higher than that in terms of probability that we actually see the cuts as early as March. So it's a big week this week, as we said in the weekend's video, looking out to that CPI, and pretty much anything that happens in the meantime is kind of irrelevant. We still have Trueflation telling us that CPI is beginning its next leg down. So will it, won't it show up in this readout? That is, of course, to be determined. So in the meantime, all eyes on that CPI print for the 11th. In the meantime, of course, the other thing we were discussing, albeit in less detail, is this Bitcoin ETF approval. We should get a decision this week. And if you just type in Bitcoin ETF and read the news, right, you get all kinds of mixed messages and mixed signals. Some people saying as high as 90% chance this thing's approved this week. And we got Reuters saying that they're almost certainly going to approve this thing this week. And for every one of those headlines, you can find one that goes in the opposite direction as well. But a few things I wanted to point out are as follows, okay? In 2015, when Plan B first bought Bitcoin at $400, people said Bitcoin was dead. In 2019, when he bought Bitcoin at 4K and then wrote that stock to float article calling for 55K Bitcoin, people said he was crazy. And today, Bitcoin is at 40K. The stock to flow model predicts $532,000 after this 2024 halving, which remember is about 100 days away now. And people say it's impossible. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to see this number, but if we can get even halfway there or 3/4 of the way there, I think most people will be pretty happy with that. So we got the stock to flow model telling us to be open to seeing much, much, much higher Bitcoin prices walking forward. And the thing I like about this is a lot of people think this is impossible. The more people think something's impossible, the more likely it tends to become in markets. So I like that. If everyone was calling for 500K, I'd be thinking, no, zero chance. And if you think that's too bullish, then strap in, because things are about to get even more bullish from certain people's perspectives. We've got British Hodl here, right, that says, look, understand this. There is probably not a single day in Bitcoin's history where there has been a net inflow of more than $1.5 billion long on Bitcoin in a single day. And these ETFs, assuming they're approved this week, are about to get a mandate to buy roughly $3.5 billion in the space of just 5 days. Keep in mind, the bulk of this is going to come in on day one. No one is ready for this. And you can tell this because if you ask your average person, even someone that's super bullish on Bitcoin, if you walk up to them and say, hey, Mr. Super Bull on Bitcoin, do you think we could see Bitcoin at 60K by the end of this month? They'll just laugh at you and go, no, we're into this fib retracement zone. No, we got to pull back. Oh, Capo's still calling for 14K or 12K or whatever. No one is really openly saying, you know what, if we're at 100K by February, I won't be surprised. Or if we're at 100K by the halving, I won't be at all surprised. Very few people are out here saying that. Now, again, I'm not saying that's going to happen because this is a market. And the only thing I know is that I don't know. But one thing we do know for sure is that I still believe Max Payne is to the upside. So let me first show you this chart right here. There is a valid Elliott wave count that tells us that we could probably get this bullish news that sends us into the top of wave 3, and that would be 100K as early as February or even March. Now, again, I know as I say this, a lot of people are going to be very, very upset with me. And, there's no way. We've got to have this retracement. We've got to come back and test the lows. We haven't built a base. There's, a million reasons. And they kind of sound cool when you say them out loud, right? They kind of sound reasonable. But remember, markets move to harm the most amount of participants. And this move right here, very few people would be on the right side of that. Very few people would say, you know what, that's fine because I bought all my Bitcoin here, right? Most people didn't trust this move because they were waiting for 12K or 10K or 14K, whatever the number was, right? Then when we got up here, they were like, okay, maybe this is for real. No, I'm bearish. Definitely super bearish. Definitely back to 12K now or 10K now. And that, of course, didn't happen. Then in here, they said, okay, well, this is a ascending wedge, right? A rising wedge. And we're going to break down from that because it's bearish. And of course, we didn't. And so now they go, well, we're right back into fib retracement levels. Well, we have to reject because, we're nowhere near the halving or whatever. Again, if we were to do this, people are not ready for that, okay? And that's unfortunately what markets do. They move to harm the most amount of participants. Most people will be forced to FOMO in somewhere in this neighborhood. Then they'll get slammed into the wave 4 before we go into wave 5. That's just kind of how I think the market would harm the most amount of participants. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you will know that I've been very consistent in saying this, that this I have always believed is the Max Payne scenario followed by this. And I've also said a bunch of times, I want it to invalidate, right? I don't want to be right about this. I would much rather see us lose these supports, right? 1, arguably 2 is being set here. And then you'll notice that assuming we did this Elliott wave thing, right? 3 into 4 into 5, we would of course draw our third and final angle of attack somewhere like this. And then of course, we would look to exit the market when we break down. So I've been very consistent in saying this. I've been very consistent in saying I don't know that this is going to happen, but I just largely suspect that this would harm the most amount of participants. So I don't think we can rule this out yet. And as I said, I want this thing to fail. But if it's going to fail, then what we need to see is for us to break down of this secondary angle of attack. And as it stands, we haven't done that. Now, if we were to get rejection for the ETF this week, I would largely suspect we do break down, right? In fact, I think it would be unreasonable to expect we don't get the ETF approval this week and we just do this instead. Okay, that doesn't really make sense. But as ever, take it one day at a time. Keep open to all outcomes, right? Because even if your base case is this, okay, first of all, you need to see a trendline violation. But second of all, you also need to be aware that anything can happen, right? So even if this is your base case or this is your base case, just keep in mind, right? You need to have a plan in case this were to unfold. And so if you're repulsed by all of this bullishness, then I'm afraid this is about to make you puke, okay? Take a look at this because this is one of the most bullish things I've ever heard anyone speak regarding Bitcoin.
And there's every indication that nation states are embracing it. Jerome Powell says it's a digital asset. Christina Lagarde says it's a digital asset. The head of the SEC taught a class on it. I think that people understand it's not a threat to the dollar, by the way. What's going to happen is the U.S. dollar is going to be the world reserve currency, and it's going to run on billions and billions of mobile devices. And the digital asset that underlies that currency is going to be Bitcoin.
So there you have it, right? The USD to be backed by Bitcoin. Now, I didn't say that. Sailor said that. Maybe, maybe not, right? I mean, only in my wildest dreams. We will see. We will see. Let's first of all get through this week, though, okay? Let's first of all get through this week because we need to see, one, that CPI come in cold, as I discussed over the weekend. We really need to see that ETF approval, okay? And if we don't, then it's going to be quite nice, actually, because if I go back here, if we do not get this ETF approval, we will most likely start to base here, start to come back down and do completely normal 4-year halving cycle stuff. And of course, as I've been saying over and over again, this will be super easy to deal with because we've seen a bunch of these before. It will also be really easy to find confluence with a trendline breakdown and a cycle count top before that next 4-year cycle low is due. So this is absolutely the scenario that I'm rooting for because this, I would say with 95% confidence, I will be able to sell the top at, okay? But if we get one of these, okay, it's going to be much harder to sell the top. And even if we get this, there's nothing to say that we won't go to a 3-year bear market. But there's also nothing to say we won't end up having some big crash and then end up rocketing higher to a right translated cycle top. And then we'll have to buy this breakout, not knowing whether what comes next is a lower high and a rollover, right? You know, it could be this or it could be this rollover. So this is going to be a way harder scenario to deal with. But my experience in markets tells me that this is the most likely outcome at the moment. So as ever, one day at a time. With all that said, welcome to Monday, okay? Welcome to Monday. I hope you're enjoying this bullishness. Life is better as an optimist, okay? Life is better as an optimist. I remain optimistic about Bitcoin. I remain optimistic about the future, even though I have one of the bleakest outlooks for 2024. With that said, one of the biggest criticisms I get of my bleak outlook on 2024, right? This blow off top and the deflationary bust, coupled with a big recession that spreads throughout the world. The biggest criticism I get with this is people say to me, yeah, but Camel, it's an election year. Do you really think they're going to do that? And the answer, as always, is I don't know. But this data was very intriguing to me, okay? Did you know that stocks have gained in a pre-election year and an election year after a negative midterm year every single time since 1950? 17 out of 17 times. So if I'm right about the deflationary bust and the global recession, it will be the first time that we've ever seen this, okay? It'll be the first time we've ever seen this breakdown. The whole election year cycle thing tells us to be open to seeing the year finish green. So we're kicking off this year, aren't we, with a lot of conflicting data. Whether it's this whole election year versus deflationary bust data thing, we've also got the Santa rally that failed, which tells us to be open to seeing weakness, okay, and a red finish to the year. We've got ETF news that is allegedly really bullish and going to send the price to the millions. We've also got ETF news, which is negative and never going to see approval. We've got people calling for a soft landing and the roaring 20s and another decade of bull market, as well as people calling for the biggest global deflationary bust that we've seen since the Great Depression that culminates in the rollout of CBDCs. So at this moment in time, it is really quite difficult to say what's going to happen. But one thing I know is that if we continue to take it one day at a time, if we continue to not marry any opinions or biases, if we continue to come up with strong opinions weakly held, as this calendar year unfolds, things are going to start to become clearer and clearer, and it's going to become more and more easy to understand what comes next. So with all that said, I don't have a great deal to say about the charts because we covered it in the weekend's video. I did kind of forget to go over this housing market short, but as you can see, it's hanging right around break even. So nothing more to say about that. Bitcoin is above 44K, okay? And notice, still holding its cycle lows, still making higher highs and higher lows, not yet broken down, tells us to be open to seeing that yellow squiggle of mine playing out. Oil continues to be the correct thing to short at the moment. Is this breakout retest before resumption? I don't know. But to me, it kind of looks like it wants to roll over. I'm noticing gold, okay? Very interesting behavior out of gold. A lot of people were calling for seriously bullish price action out of gold. Maybe that's the case, okay? Maybe after we see the CPI come down, the dollar rolls over, yields come off, and we see gold benefit from this out of its cycle low, which is due any day now. Or maybe my yellow squiggle continues to play out. As ever, one day at a time there. And of course, the other key thing we're looking to see is the DXY. Can the dollar indeed roll over? Can this confirm a fake breakout and thus not a 3-year cycle low? And do we then have another quarter approximately of downtrend before we can find that 3-year cycle low, giving the risk assets the space? One day at a time, as always. I hope you're doing well in life. Welcome to the week. Welcome to Monday. And one thing I can be sure of is that this week is going to be wild, okay? By the time we get to Thursday or Friday, something is going to be significantly different. Believe it, believe it, believe it. In the meantime, I hope you're doing well in life. I hope you're as excited for this week as I am. I hope you love what you do as much as I do. And until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.